You're very welcome to Lauren Parker here on WLR. It's Tomás McCarthy here till 7 o'clock, and hope you're all keeping safe and well. Another busy show in store, COVID controversy, Colm Keys from the Irish Independent will chat about that Monaghan training session, and the new GAA calendar for 2021. Room to improve, former Wexford and Kildare boss Jason Ryan on a revamp of the Waterford underage squads, and the big names involved with the Dayshed this season. And brothers in arms, Stephen and Kieran Bennett on Ballysaggert's new €10,000 draw. So Monaghan football boss Seamus McEnany is the latest inter-county manager to be hit with a 12-week ban after his team conducted a collective training session last month. The story first appeared in the Irish Independent, and delighted to welcome back to the show GAA correspondent with the Independent, Colm Keys. And Colm, what have you and your colleagues discovered about this training session in Monaghan?
Well, this comes on foot of, obviously, last week, the story that we had in relation to Dublin training in Inishfalls. And little did I think, Tomás, that a week later I'd be talking to you on the same subject so soon. But here it is. Evidence came our way during the week. It contained video footage and photographs of a session that was is now confirmed by the manager, who has accepted a penalty from his own county board, that a training session took place in Corduff GAA Club on the weekend before last. So this was filmed anonymously and presented not only to ourselves but also to the Department of Justice and the GAA, among other politicians as well. This was circulated widely. It was very carefully put together, is what I would say, and the evidence to us and indeed to Monaghan clearly, and the GAA subsequently, was and certainly to Monaghan, enough to suspend Seamus McEnany on his own admission that there had been a breach. So evidence presented to us, I presume, on foot of the revelation last week that Dublin had breached the collective training ban. So twice within the week, having suspended two managers early in the year, 4 breaches of the collective training ban, we can assume that there are a lot more. And obviously the wider argument still exists as to whether these players, elite players, should be back, but clear contravention of the current rules, not only of the GAA but the state.
And you have a follow-up story today, Colm, in the Irish Independent, and the headline is GAA poised to declare bans on Dublin and Monaghan managers null and void ahead of further investigation. What can you tell us about this?
Well, Dessie Farrell was suspended by Dublin last week, but Dublin GAA in this circumstance do not have the powers to suspend that for a breach of this nature. That falls on the GAA's management committee. Now, as it happened, they completed their investigation into Dublin's breach yesterday, and they have imposed their own 3-month ban on Dessie Farrell, which has been accepted, obviously. So this is a technicality, but what it effectively means is that the ban imposed last week is null and void, and it will apply from yesterday for 3 months. So it's an extra week, we'll say, that Dessie will have to serve. And similarly, Seamus McEnany's ban imposed by his own county board yesterday will probably be accepted it would be similar, 3 months, I would presume, consistent with Dessie Farrell. So that will only apply from when management complete their investigation, which will be sometime next week. So he will be banned from 12 weeks. It's a technicality, but the bans imposed by the counties are null and void. Dublin have also lost home advantage for one of their league games too, and that could mean that they'll be playing all 3 games away from home, 2 at away venues and 1 at a neutral venue. That has to be firmed up either today or in the coming week. But that's what it looks like.
Colm, I just want to play a clip of GAA President Larry McCarthy commenting on this matter yesterday.
I think it's done us reputational damage, which we're going to have to work to get back. There's no, what's the word I used today, appetite for any breaches in society at the moment. So undoubtedly it has. But I mean, we'll continue to work to get that confidence and to get that back from the public again, and hopefully there won't be any more breaches.
Colm, where does this leave the GAA and its relationship with the government as the new season approaches?
doesn't jeopardise the games, that's for sure, because this breach happened prior to the statement that they issued on the Tuesday, imploring counties to hold the line, so to speak, on collective training. So it happened in advance of that and Dublin. Had this breach happened the following weekend, I think it would have been a lot more problematic for the GAA. I don't think it will considerably damage relations. It doesn't give them any great credit line when it comes to future negotiations around permissions, as Larry McCarthy pointed out. That they are not going to the government to say, can you step up and allow collective training for clubs? The credit line there isn't strong because the teams have contravened, and it's not a great look. No matter what you say, no matter what side of the debate around COVID you are, whether you think, and I happen to think these teams should be back, and I said that to you last week, I think they should be back. But having said that, we all have to abide by rules and regulations that we may not necessarily agree with or like, and that's what's happened here. In direct contravention, Dublin and now obviously Monaghan have broken those rules and regulations, and it's not a good look in a very sensitive time for the country when other people are obviously abiding by rules and regulations that lead to a lot of sacrifices in their own life. So that is the difficulty for the GAA, trying to keep all these teams in line. My own suspicion is that since Dublin last week, a lot of teams will have rolled in their plans and have decided to wait until April 19. They don't need this hassle. And I'd say if you were to ask Seamus McEnany, he could do it all over again. Probably, I'm quite sure he wouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely, Colm. And I suppose the positive GAA news this week is that the Masters fixtures plan was released yesterday. The All-Ireland hurling final pencilled in for August 22nd. The football final a week later, August 29th. Looking at the hurling side of things, first of all, the National League starting on the weekend of May 8th and 9th. The Waterford hurlers will face Limerick, Galway, Tipperary, Cork and Westmeath in Division 1A before the Munster Championship starts at the end of June. Will Liam Cahill and the rest of the hurling managers be pretty happy with the programme of games they've been given, Colm?
Absolutely, Tomas. When you compare it to football, they have at least certainly the top three divisions, 1A, 1B and 2A, all have a minimum of 5 league games here. So that's in such a tight, confined space for games, that's a great return. And they also have the qualifier option in the championship, which is something their football counterparts don't have. So by and large, most hurling counties have a minimum of 7 games in this programme. Football counties only have a minimum of 5. So that's quite a distinction. And the biggest distinction of all is they have re-entry into the championship if they lose in their provincial championship. So that's a great fallback again, which football counties don't have. And I think the decision to go a week early, which was moved by some of the hurling counties, and by consequence, the hurling managers were in favour of this. So they're prepared to take a official 3-week run-in before they start playing games, rather than a 4-week running. That's against what the Gaelic Players Association were holding out for on behalf of their members. But my understanding is players were consulted on this too, and were very happy to go along with it. And some of the sports scientists that were involved with teams that maybe would have a concern for this, they were happy with the trade-off of an extra couple of games if it meant losing one more week. Now, obviously, you bear in mind that there were many, many injuries last year, particularly at club level, that the quick turnaround to games. And I think the injury benefit fund payout probably reflected that. It was not far off what it was the previous year, which would suggest that even in a far more compressed window for games, there were nearly just as many injuries. And that was because of the quick return. And there's a quick return here. And will it lead to as many injuries? Well, certainly physios would have had their concerns about it last year. But it appears that the green light has been given, and it has come from hurling counties. And the bonus is they have got more games out of this.
Yeah, and when you look at the football column, like no backdoor, there's going to be no Talton Cup either for Division 3 and Division 4 counties. Waterford are going to be playing Carlow and Wexford in Division 4, with London not taking part. I think there may be only guaranteed 4 matches under this new system. Why have the GAA opted for a straight knockout once again?
I think time. But I would contest that now. I think there were ways to introduce a qualifier. Again, it all depends on, I suppose, the management of it. If hurling counties were asked, would they go back a week early? Could that have been extended to football counties? They could have taken out the league semi-finals and just played the finals and the relegation playoffs on the same weekend, and that would give you one more weekend back for the league. And they could have compressed the provincial championships by a week as well. They're giving 6 weeks to 6 weekends to the provincial championships this year. They gave 5 last year, 5 weekends last year. If they stuck by 5, that's another week back. So that's 3 weeks. And the head of games, Fergal McGill, said, well, we needed 3 more weeks for qualifiers. And look, he's a very experienced official. He would always see the bigger picture, and where we may be only talking about just football counties. There are many elements to it, but there was further clawback there, I feel, that would have allowed qualifiers to take place in football, especially when you were going to the last weekend in August for an All-Ireland final. I would have expected it would have been the week before when the hurling final has been played, and consequently the hurling final would be back a week earlier. But no, it's going right to the end of August. And to me, that would have allowed sufficient time for a football qualifier. So I think football counties will be disappointed by this development.
Absolutely. And just before you go, Colm, I want to give a mention to the 32-page special that will be appearing in tomorrow's Independent, the top 50 GAA controversies of the past 50 years. Anything Waterford fans might be interested in? Yeah, we've put this together, obviously, 50 years ago. The ban was deleted from the GAA rulebook, the infamous Rule 27. And in fact, Tom Cheasty, the great Waterford hurler, was one of the high-profile casualties, shall we say, of that particularly archaic rule in 1963. He missed the league final against New York. But yes, there is a bit of a Waterford flavour. Obviously, the 1998 Munster final controversy features very, very prominently. Obviously, Clare featured in that controversy much more than Waterford at the time. But also there was a High Court case that the former Waterford chairman Eamon Murphy took against his back in 1991 over a payments issue, which he won, and which brought around change to the way that committees were set up. So we featured that as well. That's in the midst of it too. So they would be the two that stand out to me from the Waterford point of view. But we've encapsulated 50, going from the ban to the breach last week by the Dubs, which is included, and which became such a big issue so late in terms of putting this together. But we felt it necessary to include it somewhere. Obviously, all the big rule changes from Rule 42 to the Rule 21, which was the prohibition on armed forces and the RUC, British Armed Forces and the RUC playing Gaelic games. And we've gone through all the managerial controversies too. Justin McCarthy leaving Waterford in 2008, that didn't feature. It wasn't as acrimonious as a lot of the others. I mean, you take the 3 Cork player strikes, they all feature prominently. Well, GAA correspondent with the Irish Independent, Colm Keys, thanks so much for your time again today. Thanks, Tomas.
Lorna Porca with Tomas McCarthy on WLR.